Hey, what's up there, YouTube? It's your boy, Flip a Flapjack, and we are here today to take a look-see at the Starcraft 2 5.0.14 Ptr patch notes, which were released earlier today. Very exciting. I did not personally see this coming. I kind of thought the dream was over, and instead we have a humongous potential patch here coming up for Starcraft 2. So let's get right into it, and we'll throw out some opinions here as we go. Greetings from the Starcraft 2 Community Balance Council. For around 7 months since the last patch, we are happy. Around 7 months since the last patch, we're happy to present the next major multiplayer balance update featuring changes for 14 units and 10 buildings, as well as 2 new abilities. We feel that the previous patch has mostly achieved its goals, fixing community pain points around Widow Mines and Cyclone, and slightly helping Protoss players in early and mid-game against Terran. However, the current patch has a couple more ambitious goals outlined below. You know, I do think that we actually did address this in a meaningful way last patch. Okay, let's see what we say. The first goal is to nerf defensive and camping play styles for all races, both related to early and late game on the higher levels of play. Man, I can't read. Holy shit. We will target specific units, buildings and abilities suited for camping to promote a more active gameplay across all stages of the game. Man, I need to drink some coffee. Holy smoke. Okay, so they want you out there doing stuff as opposed to staying at home. Vindicta, I hope you're listening. The second goal is to continue reshaping Protoss tools for high-level gameplay. There's still a major gap between how the Protoss race plays and feels on the highest level of play and the levels below. Current set of changes aims to make the Protoss race slightly more efficient with the strongest and smartest execution, while helping Terran and Zerg players against Protoss on the lower levels. Okay. The third goal would be to provide strong playstyle alternatives for various matchups. Zergs might now be better equipped to use ground-based armies against mass air strategies, and some of the Terran mech units are now more efficient in harassment or certain straight-up fight scenarios. Terran mech. Yikes. Lastly, we would like to continue adding overall gameplay and quality of life improvements viable across all levels of play. We'd like to thank everyone for providing your feedback for the previous patches, and we hope that the set of changes below will be actively discussed and tested on the PTR server to help us evaluate their influence. Okay, so we want to get rid of people camping. We want to help out Protoss on the highest level, something I'm very happy to read. And to provide playstyle alternatives. The first thing I see is Protoss losing an ability. Okay, Protoss changes. The Nexus. Shield battery overcharge removed. I mean, that was an annoying ability. New ability added energy overcharge. Okay, so new Protoss Nexus ability. Energy overcharge cost 50 energy. And recharges 100 energy of the targeted allied unit or structure with a maximum range of 8. So that's a one-time thing then, right? Is what I'm gathering? What is this picture showing me here? There's no Nexus in this picture. Am I missing something here? Okay. While being one of the most important tools of Protoss defense, Shield Battery Overcharge is also one of the most frustrating abilities to play against. Honestly, agreed. It's a band-aid. And it's overall more efficient at the lower level of play, unlike other defensive techniques like Transfuse or Mass Repair. Instead of this ability, there's a new tool which can help empower Protoss support units like the Sentry, the Oracle, or the High Templar during defense. This ability can still be used to restore shield battery energy, but is expected to perform much weaker in this scenario than shield battery overcharge. Well, okay, so this seems like it's a one-shot thing. Like, I use 50 energy off my Nexus and I get 100 energy somewhere else, right? So it kind of operates like a feedback, except it's giving energy. So yeah, it's gonna be way weaker because shield battery overcharge was like what, 12 seconds of continuous, like infinite shields, basically. Okay, that's a huge change. I'm scared, but I think this definitely makes, defensive sentries and force fields very viable. Of course, these Ravengers could just, break this force field in this picture here. But, sure. We'll see. I'm a Protoss player, if you can't tell. Shield battery. Shield and hit points increased from 150, 150 to 200, 200. I mean, that's like a little bit more in line. Don't like Spore Crawlers have like 500 freaking hit points? There's like 400? I guess, so that's about equal then. Okay. Considering this ability swap might be a direct Protoss nerf in a lot of early and mid-game scenarios, shield batteries will now have increased survivability and slightly compensate for that, and the PTR games will be closely monitored to see if any additional buffs are required in this area. So, if you don't know, I would argue the Protoss early game, especially if they're playing, if both players are playing macro, the Protoss player has, I would argue, a slightly weaker early game due to a lot of things. I mean, you can't hardwall, your units are more expensive, anything you want to build is locked behind the cybernetics core. So, I think it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to try it for sure. I think everyone can agree that shield battery overcharge was pretty irritating ability. So, okay, we'll see what happens there. Colossus, shield and hit points change from 150, 200 to 100, 250. So more HP, less shields. That's a nerf. With no battery overcharge, having more shields is no longer crucial for key Protoss units like the Colossus. Instead, having more hit points will be helpful against EMP and Protoss versus Terran matchup. That is true, actually. I didn't think of that. And will also be more rewarding for armor upgrade investments. Okay, you might have convinced me there. What I was thinking initially is that like this 150 shield hit points is recoverable, whereas Protoss is the only race where our actual hit points are not healable. Terran can heal every single thing they have, either via a medevac or an SCV, and all Zerg units heal over time and can be transfused. Buildings, because everything's alive, so buildings and units. Whereas Protoss, if you lose hit points, they are gone, and you're never getting them back. It's a weakness of the race. But you have shields on top of it that kind of like compensate. But, I guess EMP is a thing. Alright, so maybe this isn't that drastic? I guess we will see. Tempest. Supply cost decreased from 5 to 4. Good. Yeah, 5 is a lot for a Tempest. Damage point. I believe the damage point is the amount of time between when a unit attacks and when it is able to accept a new command. Has been decreased. 28% reduction. Okay, so that means that our Tempests are a little bit more microable. If you remember, Tempest actually used to be quite a bit faster than they are now. They are slow now. Attack range versus air has been decreased from 14 to 13. Not huge. Let's see what they say. Tempests are a very important late-game tool for Protoss players, but their high supply cost combined with an average damage output makes the ultimate Protoss army weaker in the head-to-head fight. True. This set of changes will help high-level Protoss players fit a bit more power into their maxed armies and have more opportunities for micro while slightly decreasing the unit's maximum attack range to not strengthen mass Tempest armies. Okay, so a little buff and that the supply is less. That's nice, actually. And you can move them there was this annoying thing where like you would tell a Tempest to attack and it would just kind of sit there because like I don't know. I know there's like a difference between the shooting animation and then like what damage point is, but hopefully this gets rid of a bit of that kind of slow, unresponsive feeling that you get out of Tempests. Delicious coffee. All right, moving on. Immortal. Mineral cost decreased from 275 to 250. Okay, so they've once again moved this back to where it was a long time ago. This is good. Immortals are too expensive for what they are. Weapon cooldown increased from 1.04 to 1.14, an almost 10% increase. So we're not shooting as fast. So we're cheaper, but we're worse. The damage output from Immortals seemed to be too high in the Protoss versus Zerg matchup across all levels of play. I'm just gonna disagree with you there. While Immortals' mineral cost is slightly decreased to compensate for the DPS nerf, the set of changes should help Zerg survive against various Protoss mid-game and late-game attacks. Alright. I mean, 10% isn't huge. 25 minerals isn't huge. So I'm not gonna just complain about this right now, but man, my 8 gateway 2 immortal prism charge light all in, I feel like they're telling me to stop doing that here. The damage output from Immortals seemed to be too high in the Protoss versus Zerg matchup across all levels of play. I don't agree with that statement, but again, you know, I guess we'll see what happens. Disruptor, all right, this is important. Purification Nova radius increased back to where it was before. Okay, cool. But it's got, of course, there's something else. Nova damage decreased from 145 plus 55 versus shields to 100 flat plus 100 versus shields. So they really want us just using this in PvP because 100, that's not going to kill a roach or a marauder or a lot of things. Let's see what they say. Disruptors might be very difficult to play against on the lower levels, but on the higher level, their efficiency drops down significantly because you're playing against Clem or someone, or yeah. Okay. This set of changes is aimed to bring back some of the Disruptor's old power, making avoiding any damage more challenging for the professional players, while at the same time making single Disruptor hits less punishing in the worst case scenario. With the new damage output, Disruptors will no longer one-shot, no longer one-shot units like Marauders, Roaches, and Ravengers, while being more efficient against units like the Marines, Ghost, Baneling, and Hydra, as well as having more potential in certain PvP scenarios. I think you mean across the board in like a PvP ground fight, right? For sure. So you can't even, dude. You can't even kill Marauders. Like that is rough because if you're making a Disruptor, you're not making an Immortal. And that kind of goes with all of these. So you'll damage them and then they will kill you. I don't know about this here. I don't think that's a pretty big nerf. Like, yeah, you get slightly more radius, but like that is rough. Well, the Protoss band-aids are getting peeled off here because without battery overcharge and disruptors that nuke shit, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Make a fleet beacon while the 3 racks is killing you? I mean, yeah. All right. You know, Protoss bias. Mothership. Okay. Mineral, gas, and supply costs increased from 306 to 408. So it's more expensive, more supply. That's kind of what it used to be, I think. Shield and hit points increased 100 each. Maximum damage increased from 6 times 6 to 6 times 4 times. Okay, so you can now target 4 units at the same time. Oh. That's pretty cool. That actually looks like what you would think the most expensive unit in the game would, you know, do, like damage. While we are happy with the previous set of changes which brought Mothership back to Protoss versus Terran late game and improved its efficiency in other matchups, we also appreciate the community feedback about this unit losing an important part of its identity. This set of changes brings back full Mothership power with the widely known 400-400 cost, while also adding a unique ability to target up to 4 units at the same time. The single target DPS of the Mothership is reduced, but the overall damage output is much higher. Cool. Sounds good. Overall, I mean, it's hard for me to say that this is a protoss buff. It really all comes down to how energy overcharge works. And how, because like, it is kind of useless unless you have something there, but I guess you could still use it on a battery, even though it's not going to be like the same. Yeah, I think it's two. I mean, I haven't played the PTR yet, so I don't know. Again, I'm so biased, but so far this feels like a slight nerf. But I you know, cause like the Disruptor losing that damage, man, like that's Roaches, Marauders, Ravagers. These are the things that are freaking destroying us. But okay, let's see. Let's keep going. Terran changes. Bunker, missile turret, sensor tower. Now remember, we're trying to get rid of camping playstyles. Salvage ability added for the missile turret and sensor tower, also returning 75% of their cost. Salvage process is now being canceled upon taking damage. Oh, okay, so you can keep, okay, that's kind of cool. This change will allow Terrans to be more efficient at moving from one defensive point to another. Dude, Terrans are already so efficient and so defensive, or they can be, while at the same time increasing their overall investment in early game attacks featuring bunkers, as salvage is easier to counter. I mean, salvage takes like, what, a second and a half? So you just salvage it slightly. All right, we'll see. Planetary Fortress. Armor decreased from 3 to 2. Thank you. Thanks. That is slightly more reasonable. I mean, the amount of times I've had like 15 stalkers shooting at a fortress, it's like, well, repair is better. This is cool. I think that's a, if we're going for an anti-camping playstyle, then that's pretty important. Being able to salvage turrets and sensor towers, though. You can just move sensor towers around? I don't know, man. Sensor tower. Mineral and gas cost decreased from 125, 100 to 150. They're cutting 50 gas out of the tower? Radar range decreased from 27 to 22, a 34% size reduction. The combination of planetary fortresses and sensor towers is a very powerful camping tool in various late-game scenarios. This set of changes makes planetary fortresses slightly weaker against basic army units like Zerglings, Marines, and Zealots, and making sensor towers much more efficient in covering the whole map. However, sensor towers might now be useful in earlier stages of the game, considering their major leap cost, reduced cost, and added salvage ability. Yeah, like, wouldn't you like make a tower pretty much immediately after slapping down your natural now? 50 gas is pretty cheap. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to see it in action. Oh, okay, cool. Orbital command. Extra supply call down now also increases the hit points of a supply depot to 500. Immediately repairing it. Okay, that's, yeah, exactly. Look at this graphic right here. That is a game saver. That is another get out of jail free card. Not only are you getting the supply, you're buying time. Wow. Extra supplies are rarely utilized in the higher level of play and are mostly considered to be an emergency tool in case of supply blocks. This change brings additional value to this ability, allowing it to become a niche defensive tool against various offenses and counter attacks. All right. That seems like it could be like extremely clutch. Right? It also seems like it's defensive and campy. So that sort of goes against what we were talking about before, but okay. Hellion. Blue Flame's, I think, goated. Blue Flame upgrade bonus damage versus light increased from +5 to +9. Terran getting all the buffs. As the Blue Flame upgrade is rarely utilized as a harassment tool. That's not true. This change is added to allow Hellions with blue flame to two-shot workers of all races. You need 2 Hellions and a medevac to kill everything. Think about that. This might also help underused mech playstyles in all matchups and promote generally more active early and mid-game from Terran players. Bro, mech. Okay. I mean, mech does need to be viable. I feel like it already is, but blue flame. I mean, I guess if you're getting blue flame, you're only able to make 1 Hellion at a time out of that factory, right? So, of course, you can always switch add-ons because you're Terran. I'm seeing a lot of buffs for Terran. Liberator. Advanced ballistics effect changed from providing +2 range in defender mode to increasing the radius in defender mode from 5 to 6.25. What? Advanced ballistics. So it gave you +2 range, so your Liberator could be sat way back. That it no longer does that. But the circle it is drawing is way bigger. Way bigger. Dude, Liberator's already so oppressive. Smart Servos upgrade. I mean, but it has to sit closer to do it. But then again, does it? If the radius is larger, which way is this? I'm assuming it's coming out from the center because we're using the word radius here. So you could still be sitting out of range of a stalker, for example, and still killing workers at a nexus. Yes? The Smart Servos upgrade is now also affecting Liberators. With Smart Servos, Liberator siege time is decreased from 2.89 to 2.12, a 26% reduction. Okay, and unsiege time is also decreased. Liberators with Smart Servos getting in and getting out. You know what? Make Smart Servos usable. I don't think anyone really gets that. This helps. That's cool. Despite the previous advanced ballistics nerf, did it get nerfed? I guess it was +3 before, wasn't it? Liberator's maximum attack range is still an important limitation for the map-making process, as well as a frustrating mechanic to play against, no doubt. This set of changes is aimed to test a different approach for the unit, which further decreases its maximum range in line with the Tempest changes, but allows it to cover more area on the sides and underneath the Liberator in Defender mode. I would have to see this in action to make a comment. I do think that making Smart Servos more viable is a cool change. This blue flame thing I think is really scary. This seems like a absolute ass-saving, like very clutch in buying time kind of buff. I don't know if it really will, I don't know. Man, I don't know. All right, let's keep going. We're almost to the Zerg ones. Okay, so we got one more Terran change. It's for the Thor. Explosive payload, splash mode. Okay, that's like the it's like ground to air splash. Damage is increased. Explosive payload splash radius is increased by a lot. It went from 0.5 with 100% splash to that plus 0.75 with 75% and 1.25 with 50%. That's a lot of damage. Explosive payload attack range is decreased from 10 to 7. Oh, okay. Thor's explosive payload. That just sounds kind of funny. While being default for the unit, is rarely utilized outside of TVZ against Mutalisk. True. It is overall much weaker than high impact. That is true. This set of changes is aimed to test a very different approach, allowing the Thor to deal much more damage against all types of units for a major attack range reduction. And here is a shit ton of Void Rays just getting stomped by a couple Thors. See, this graphic makes sense. This one makes sense. This one makes sense. I'm looking for an ability getting cast. Okay, there it is. The Sentry got quick energy, but they actually don't have the Nexus in. You can't even see it. Okay. Overall, Terran. The Fortress nerf is necessary, man. I'm glad to see that. Salvage being canceled upon taking damage, I think that's fair. The fact that it's been moved to both the turn and the tower, though, that's a little crazy, I think, because now you really have no actual investment. I mean, why not make a sensor tower across the map? I mean, you can salvage it pretty quickly, salvage again. It takes like 2 seconds. But the range is reduced, so we'll see how that plays out. But man, it's cheap. You can get it back. I don't know. Huge like game saver against quick. I mean, that's huge, man. And then it has 500 hit points too, which means it has more of a pool to be repaired from. Hellions are gonna two-shot workers with just 2 of them. Expect to see a lot of medevacs flying around with those pesky frickin' Hellions. These Liberator changes are pretty substantial. I have to see it in action before I could really tell you how I feel about that, but okay. Again, smart servos being used more I think is cool. Thors, man. Thors are already kind of annoying to play against, but I'm usually not playing against this ability of a Thor, so... Alright, let's keep it going now, guys. We're on to the Zerg changes. First thing I'm seeing... Okay, so the first thing I've seen on of protoss here, like the first thing you see is like a nerf, right? And then you get a Terran, and it's a buff. And then you go to the Zerg, and it's a nerf. Just noticing some things. Queen, mineral cost increased from 150 to 175. I think that's more in line with how freaking powerful and used in every single matchup, always all the time, that the Queen is. So yeah, hatchery. Mineral cost decreased from 300 to 275. So if you add in the cost of the worker, it's 325 for a hatchery, whereas still 400 for a CC and 400 for a Nexus. That is a buff. Spine crawler. Build time decreased, damage increased, but no longer getting a buff versus armored. Okay, sure. Spore crawler, damage decreased. Dude, spore crawlers, I feel like they shit out damage like crazy. Oh, they, you know, I think earlier I said, like, don't they have like 500 HP? They did have 400, which is crazy. All right, so more damage, less health. Spine crawler health is untouched. Spine crawler just got better. And the spore is just shitting out even more damage. Zerg playstyles against Terran and Protoss players on higher levels are mainly focused on defensive gameplay featuring mass queens. The efficiency of such defensive styles with strong execution means that Terran and Protoss players might also prefer to stay passive, which doesn't lead to an active early game. This set of changes, while not majorly influencing Zerg openings with a limited number of queens, is aimed to make mass queen playstyles less affordable. Spine crawler and spore crawler changes will help compensate for potentially smaller defensive impact from queens, while at the same time, spore crawler HP was still decreased to make sure the spore crawler damage increase is not utilized for more efficient late game camping, which is what we're trying to avoid. We want to avoid late game camping, and yet we're buffing static defense. I have to tell you that I am slightly confused by that, but you know, 25 minerals more for the queen. You actually already get that because your next hatchery costs 25 less. So it ends up exactly the same. This set of all of this together right here, I'm just gonna say, like, on the, I mean, again, I haven't played the PTR yet. Maybe it's a great change. On the surface, this doesn't exactly make sense to me, except that I did think spore crawlers were awfully freaking tanky. And I already thought they did a ton of damage, but I guess they're gonna do more now. Alright. Hydralisk. Probably the most, yeah, Hydras and Infestors. Okay, cool. Pretty important. Move speed on creep with muscular augments upgrade has been decreased by 5%. I mean, they were pretty flippin' fast. New ability added, Dash. Okay, new ability. Dash is researched in the Hydralisk Den. It requires Hive. The upgrade costs 100, 100, and it takes 64 seconds. The key thing here, I think, is requires Hive. Dash is an active, non-targeted ability with a 10-second cooldown. Upon its use, the Hydralisk receives a 60% move speed bonus for not even quite a second. So this is a get out of frickin' trouble ability, and it gives them a lot more speed. Briefly. Alright, so what are we saying here? The idea of this ability is to add more micromanagement potential for the key Zerg unit against mass area of effect damage spell like protoss, storms, and novas. Compared with other changes like Microbial Shroud, this ability might unlock alternative ground-based Zerg playstyles against Protoss late-game army compositions without giving too much base power to the unit. I think Hydras are pretty much the best thing Zerg can build. Move speed on creep with Muscular Augments upgrade is slightly reduced to make sure Terran and Protoss harassment tools are not nerfed with this ability. I mean, that's a very, slightly reduced. Not nerfed. Okay, so basically, the Hydras show up. You use Storm, they retreat. Next time they come back, they got Dash. Use Storm, they actually just charge forward and destroy you, or get out of the way. They're gonna be able to dodge Novas, man. But I guess the 10-second cooldown does buy a little bit of time. All right, you know, I'm interested to see how it plays out. I already feel, again, Protoss bias, I already feel like my units are the absolute slowest ever. And couldn't you use Dash to, like, rotate very, very quickly? Interested to see how that works out, but also cool that new abilities are getting added to the game. Or potentially, rather. Infestor. Shroud is now sticking to units, providing them with its effect for 3 seconds while off the Shroud. Then again, I guess not a lot of people use this. Despite being very strong on paper, Shroud is not widely used in Zerg versus Protoss late game, mostly due to units under Shroud being vulnerable to area of effect damage spells. With Shroud sticking to units for 3.6 seconds outside of the actual Shroud area, Zerg players are now able to micro more freely while still enjoying the benefits of this Infestor ability. Okay, cool. You know, like, besides like Kid Chillin' and Serral, I don't see a lot of Zergs playing Infestor, and I think they should, because Infestors are goated. And to make, you know, what is supposed to be a pretty key ability more useful, yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, this means that you kind of want to get more, like, you can't just, like, be spamming carriers as, you know, as readily. So it really does seem to me, especially with the Hydralisk Dash and then this as well. I mean, I do think that Protoss is slightly, ever so slightly, maybe favored in this matchup, maybe. So perhaps this can even the scales, although it might tip it back the other way. At the same time, I feel like Terran is favored against Protoss. I don't know. I'm gonna shut up. It's cool that they're making the abilities more useful. It's cool they're adding new abilities. Okay. Ultralisk. While moving, the Ultralisk is now able to push allied units. So they just go to the front no matter what. That is huge, dude. You feel that the previous yeah, they also made him smaller too. The previous Ultralisk size, attack, and cost changes were all helpful to improve the state of this unit, but this additional change should help Zerg players across levels to better utilize the Ultralisk strengths, avoiding cases where they're stuck behind the other allied units. That's a good quality of life change, actually. Because it is annoying that it can just get trapped back here. So that's a great change. I think that's great. Broodlord. Broodling HP is increased from 20 to 30. Is this all broodlings, including like when you kill a Roach Warren and broodlings pop out? Broodling weapon cooldown decreased, so they attack faster, they have more HP. Fix the bug, which prevented the Broodlord from dealing full damage while shooting from the maximum distance. I didn't realize there was a bug in the game like that, but okay. Developer comment. Broodlords seem to lose too much power in head-to-head fights after the previous set of changes. The Broodling changes are now reverted, which, combined with the bug fix, should help the unit perform better in various late-game scenarios. All right. And it looks like we got some quality of life stuff here. Scanner Sweep uses team color. Sensor Tower shows team color. New command centers, nexuses, and hatcheries now auto-rally to mineral fields. 2 less clicks. That's great. I'm still going to do it, but it's nice that it's there. Workers waiting for refinery extractor in a similar to finish do not count as idle. Another great change. SCV random delay when... Okay, SCV random delay between moving while building adjusted. So it's within a tighter range of variables. So it's the same average. So then what actually changed? I guess it's just within a smaller, like it could be 3 seconds or it could be 7. Now it's either going to be 4.5 or 6. Okay. Edit icon to command card for Infestor, Hellion, Hellbat, Liberator showing unupgraded passive upgrades. That's cool. Siege Tank and Immortal tracking change. Oh yeah, from previous patch reverted due to causing unintentional retargeting. Great, another quality of life change. Fix an issue where Blinding Cloud caused certain melee unit attacks to be more easily cancelled. Huh? Another issue I was unaware of. Fix an issue where Blinding Cloud could cause planetaries to not attack units at melee range in certain angles. I didn't know any of this stuff was even happening. Fix an issue with issuing orders on certain types of rocks in fog. Fix an issue with Changeling Zealot move animation speed. I didn't know any of this stuff was even in the game. Tweaked Hydralisk move animation speed to match its actual movement speed. Art only. Okay, love all of these. I think that overall, first off, I'm just thrilled that there's a patch in the first place. If this came with new maps, I would be fully bricked. But I'm still at half-mast with at least a little something going on here. Overall, this actually feels pretty even. I mean, my main concern, this Hellion change seems very significant to me, but will it actually play out that way? I'm not sure. You know, we want to get rid of camping playstyles, but we're making it a lot easier to camp in some sense of the word. But it might not be as drastic as I actually think. It's nice to see the mothership actually deals damage. That's pretty cool. I'm guessing that the way, like, it doesn't still have auto cloak or anything like that. Like, they didn't give us back the fact that it just passively cloaks things. It doesn't seem that they did. But still, it's cool that it, you know, it's more expensive again, though, too. If they did this and gave us back the passive cloak, I would be super stoked. As it is, it feels like it kind of comes out even. You're just not going to see them that often. That's so much money in supply for that. Dude, this feels like a big nerf. Not being able to one-shot those Marauders, man. Like, sometimes that really is the difference between surviving and not surviving, especially now that you don't have shield battery overcharge. Then again, though, I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. Yeah, I really don't agree with this statement. Damage output of Immortals seemed too high in this matchup. I just don't agree with that, but if that is the consensus, then sure. I'm excited to see the Tempest be slightly more viable. This Colossus change, sure. Shield battery now has the same health as other defensive units. Cannons still don't, so sure. It's really, yeah, for me it's all about energy overcharge. I mean, that's really exciting. I think it makes, of course they're showing sentries here. I think that makes that kind of stuff, it's a more active way to defend, and I think that'll be more fun to watch. Cause like every time you see like the Baja Blast battery light up, it's kind of like, okay, you know, kind of annoying. But hey, at least we got a patch in the first place, so I'm stoked on that. What do you guys think of the patch? Leave your comments below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.